laude, fonte, sì voi sol potete narrare all'idol mio i miei crudi martiri, lor che lungi da te rivolge al piede. E se crutel non crede, perché torni a con lei donde partì, dite così. Senti, oh caro, quel ruscello vago e bello, quella unetta, vezzo seta, sai cos'è? È un sospiro del tuo bene, è un sospiro del tuo bene. Quella unetta, vezzo seta, senti, oh caro, senti, oh caro, sai cos'è? È un sospiro del tuo bene. Quella unetta, vezzo seta, caro, senti, sai cos'è? È un sospiro del tuo bene. Vedi, oh caro, quel ruscello vago e bello, sai cos'è? Sono le lagrime di nene, sono le lagrime di nene. Vedi, oh caro, quel ruscello vago e bello, quel ruscello, sai cos'è? Sono le lagrime di nene, sono le lagrime di nene. Senti, oh caro, quella unetta, vezzo seta, quella unetta, vezzo seta, sai cos'è? È un sospiro del tuo bene, è un sospiro del tuo bene. Quella unetta, vezzo seta, senti, oh caro, senti, sai cos'è? È un sospiro del tuo bene. Quella unetta, vezzo seta, caro, senti, sai cos'è? È un sospiro del tuo bene. Well, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity to perform here. Zipoli is the composer of this piece, and Domenico Zipoli is very interesting because he was a very famous composer in Rome, and once he felt a call of God, and he decided to emigrate to South America as a Jesuit priest. And when he was in the missions, where my people live, he thought it was very nice to write music for them, because the musical production nowadays in the missions is very important. And he was writing for my ancestors. So he was writing not for white people, but for indigenous to perform, to play, and also the indigenous people were the ones who did these very big missions and churches in the missions nowadays. So you can still visit them. And I would say, many people say, well, it's European music, it is indigenous. Well, it's both, because the composers brought or they composed the music there, but there were no white people playing this. So the indigenous, it was written for their voices and for the way of how they play the instruments. So this is a mixed, let's say, of indigenous music written for them, but thought of European, an European point of view. But maybe when they came to South America, they changed something. Maybe they adapted to the indigenous, because for the indigenous, the music is related to a ritual. So it's not, we don't have operas. Well, we have operas, but these operas have a religious content. And it is more to be done in celebrations in the church. So if the music is, for the indigenous people, is ritual, and it's very, very sacred, then possibly the missionaries, they understood that, and they brought that element into them. So the music of the missions is really not ornamentated as in Europe. It is much simple, but it's not simple because the indigenous, they could not play or sing, because many white people think that. But it is because they didn't know this theatrical way. They needed something connecting to God, to Jesus in this case, to connect with Our Lady, to connect with the saints. And for such communication, we don't need a big composition or something which is really full of brightness. The connection is really very intimate, and that's what the indigenous music, religious music, produced there. It is this simplicity, because they really don't need to express in a very outrageous way, but much more intimate. And it's not because they could not sing, because there were other places, other churches in South America where they were a big production of very complicated music. Of course they could, but this is another context. And if you want to know more, you can go to the Mouth of the Gods production, where we will listen for the first time an indigenous Baroque opera.
And the piece you are going to hear now is a piece written for keyboard solo, originally for the organ, although those pieces back then were written for whichever keyboard instrument was available, and as Michael mentioned, there were harpsichords actually in South America. And this is a little sonata in 3 movements by anonymous composers, because a lot of this music, most of the music from the missions is anonymous, as they were writing it to praise the God, obviously. And this particular piece is from the Jesuit mission of Chiquitos. going to play and sing Cantata by Handel, Cantata Española, which is one of the very few pieces Handel wrote in Spanish, and it has this amazing Spanish influence. And the harpsichord here is quite appropriate in terms of sound quality because it can resemble almost like Spanish guitar feel. It's very, very much flamenco-like at times.
No se me endereza jamás de amaros mi corazón, que culpas en la razón cada día crecen más. No se me endereza jamás de amaros mi corazón, que culpas en la razón cada día crecen más, cada día crecen más. Crecen a cada momento, crecen a cada momento, el quereros enojaros, que este delito de amaros, todo es bello entendimiento. No se me endereza jamás de amaros mi corazón, que culpas en la razón cada día crece más. No se me endereza jamás de amaros mi corazón, que culpas en la razón cada día crece más, cada día crece más. Si del quereros es causa y razón el conoceros, amarte cuanto mereces, espero llegar un día, pues crece en mí la porfía, amor y conocimiento. Y si medir no quisieres mi amor por tu perfección, escucha con qué primor explica callando sus ansias, amor. Dicente mis ojos, dicente mis ojos, en muda pasión, lástima sin penas, palabras sin voz. Dicente mis ojos, lástima sin penas, palabras sin voz. Dicente mis ojos, lástima sin penas, palabras sin voz. Como solo amarte mi amor pretendió, solo de quererte bien pagado estoy. Como solo amarte mi amor pretendió, solo de quererte bien pagado estoy. Dicente mis ojos, dicente mis ojos, en muda pasión, lástima sin penas, palabras sin voz. Dicen de mis ojos, en muda pasión, lástima sin penas, palabras sin voz. Dicen de mis ojos, lástima sin penas, palabras sin voz. Thank you so much. And as Katarzyna says, it's very nice that Handel also inspired in the Spanish-speaking cultures, and this flamenco and this guitarist think that Katarzyna enjoyed very much working because giving to Handel, who was German and then was in Italy and then landed here in London, and to discover this Spanish connection, and also because for me as a Spanish speaker, this recitative about love, oh my God, such a nice music written by Handel in Spanish. Wow, I enjoyed really very much. And this is the very first time I'm singing Handel. And I'm very proud of singing it here in Spanish. And Katarzyna, you're playing something now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to play another little piece from the Missions of Chiquitos, and it's going to be March in C major, again by anonymous composer, but either attributed or influenced in the style of Corelli. The last piece is Handel's as well, or Handel, as I learned to say, but in Italian. And after that, we invite you to see an exhibition upstairs. Dolce pur d'amor l'affanno, dolce pur d'amor l'affanno, se compagno del tormento il contento viene ancora, il contento viene ancora, il contento viene ancora. Dolce pur d'amor l'affanno,
il contento viene ancora, se compagno del tormento, il contento. Il contento viene ancora, il contento viene ancora. Se le pene unite vanno con la speme e con l'affetto, il diletto è poi maggior, il diletto è poi maggior. Se le pene unite vanno con la speme, con l'affetto, il diletto è poi maggior, il diletto è poi maggior. Dolce pur d'amor la fanno, dolce pur d'amor la fanno, se compagno del tormento, il contento viene ancora, il contento viene ancora, il contento viene ancora. Dolce pur d'amor la fanno, se compagno del tormento, il contento viene ancora, se compagno del tormento, il contento. Il contento viene ancora, il contento viene ancora.
We have the second part. It's so nice, but it's going on.
Il river sempre in pene, stanca desir d'amore, nel rivederto sempre piace, ma sazia il cuore. Dolci ripulse e graziosi sdegni, certa sventurate, inaspettati allievi, danno tormento e ver, ma fanno allora più suave piacer, quanto più brevi. Se più non t'amo, non ti doler, ch'amarti o bella, io più non so, no, no, io più non so, oh bella. Se più non t'amo, non ti doler, no, non ti doler, ch'amarti o bella, io più non so, no, non ti doler, ch'amarti o bella, io più non so, no, no, so, non ti doler che amarti o bella, io più non so, io più non so. Ma da te bramo caro piacer, se tu sei quella che mi piago, se tu sei quella che mi piago, se tu sei quella che mi piago. Ma da te bramo caro piacer, se tu sei quella che mi piago, se tu sei quella che mi piago, che mi piago. Se più non t'amo, non ti voler, che amarti o bella, io più non so, no, no, io più non so, oh bella. Se più non t'amo, non ti doler, no, non ti doler, che amarti o bella, io più non so, no, no, non ti doler, che amarti o bella, io più non so, io più non so, no, no, non so. Non ti doler che amarti o bella, io più non so, io più non so.